Do languages look different from the inside? Recently, I animated parts of speech that seemed unusual to outside experts. Well, what about insiders? Rummaging through my sources, some of the most compelling pointed to opinions speakers had about their own languages, especially when these didn't align with established thought. So today, after peculiar theories from without, are there unique ones from within? Theories of language from the inside? Last time we filled a map with pins. One pin for every example of something a linguist noticed about a language, often without speakers even being aware they do it. We ended with the map turned south up to represent people behind every pin. Let's stay there. Let's use that to take a page from folk linguistics and learn from examples people are aware of. How do we regard our own languages? That's not our first non-north-up map around here. Sometimes it takes turning a map around to make sense of language. Since we're flipping linguistic perspectives, it feels consistent to keep rotating the map in this animation too. Okay, enough preface. On to the real stuff. Examples! Possessive constructions got 3 mentions last time. But what do you think possession means? It might not match what's happening in other languages. In Jawoyn in Northern Australia, it's culturally anchored, not conceptualized as something that leashes the language to a person, more like it links person and language to the same landscape. This makes what linguists call possession feel more like association and belonging than control. Last time, one clicky part of speech hinted at a flip in perspectives. Click consonants seem to prove so catchy, emphatically so in interjections. So it's no surprise then that seemingly anyone with a long history of interacting anywhere near the Kalahari borrows Khoi clicks and in turn makes them their own, be they Southern Bantu or regionalized European languages. In this way, insider feelings of what it sounds like to interject and outsider linguistic data on what it frequencies like to interject seem to align. Sometimes, though, internal experience of and external theories about pronunciation are in tremendous friction, and when that happens, they incite some of the most bitter arguments I've seen since starting this channel. When what matters to a community is the old form, the source of our language, and then you come and lecture us on how it's a different language and you're reconstructing it the right way, with the best tools, well, irreconcilable differences arise. By the time I finished that last video, I could see the Western parts of speech list itself has an insiderness all its own. I noticed this device while flipping through old pages. A teacher and a student engage in question-answer repartee until the student recites the full list of 8-word classes. Sometimes this didactic exchange is turned on you in the audience, treating you as the student, and questions fly your way. To analyze grammar was then, within cultures that produced our list, bound up with what it means to educate. Also last time, Navajo parts of speech were simplified to nouns, verbs, and particles. Sentences arrange subject and object nouns either in SOV or OSV word order. Hey, I made 2 videos on those too. Well, what determines which order? An answer since the 1970s is it's an animacy hierarchy. Nouns rank in 8 levels from most to least animate. Put animate first. But one Navajo linguist finds no cultural basis for some beings being more animate. To her, what actually happened in a sentence is not built from a static ranking, but a dynamic relationship where one noun acts or causes more than the other in a real event. Something else I left out last time was about ASL. Many people in the US who can't sign can still show off their ABCs, but what's easy to miss is how integrated finger spellings are. Deaf culture readily adapts words, typically borrowed from English, as a fast flow of letters on the dominant hand. Then the next level is generational inventiveness, as children of deaf adults push fingerspelling to its limits. A prominent teacher recounts on his channel how his daughter asked for vitamins by combining all letters at once, while at the same time pointing her impromptu sign at the cupboard. I've been saying last time a lot. Enough last times for a moment. Can we add a few new pins to the map? A longtime patron points to traditional Tiwi. Thanks. Verbs have 18 pre-assigned slots, one reserved for if the event happens in the morning, another if it's in the evening, another used for stances, like if the event takes place while walking along. Such ornate words that look impressive to linguists can look less impressive from the inside. In northern New Guinea, tie-up speakers shrug at their own complex verbs and instead boast of another baffling difficulty: the way words mark gender. To linguists, it's but a simple feature. But to them, no, actually this rips the entire language in two halves. Next up, one of the first examples I set aside for this time is about insider grammarians. Vietnamese linguists have dramatically shifted their views of their own language over time. Vietnamese grammars were once based in colonial parts of speech, but then shifted to focus on syntax, like focal elements versus predicates, or a theme versus a rime, and then to today's theories that value meaning and function over form. One source lamented that proverbs often get, quote, classified as folklore or shunted to a remote appendix. Jigwe proverbs have structures and meanings that aren't generalizable across the entire language. They're crumbly. But to insiders, they practically feel like a part of speech in their own right, allowing you to compress and crumble language while making deep cultural points. People whose languages are rich with honorifics have opinions about respect, status, and what it's like to pay attention for and use the appropriate forms. Politeness registers in Korean can involve different words for eat or different particles and verb endings. Don't come off as disrespectful to a boss or elder, or unfriendly to someone younger. So you shift registers, which can feel like saving face and maintaining face, closeness and distance, but it's actually more. It's actively building relationships by referencing culture and shared understandings of events. Not all registers are so polite. Bicol languages have an angry register. From personal communication with a native speaker, it's like when you get angry, you slip into replacing vocabulary for the world around you, from dogs to the table to your siblings. And speakers themselves do find this system curious. I mean, why do my own words change so dramatically when I get angry? That reminds me, last time I got us caught in a snag of Philippine versus Philippine type languages. Probably about to make it worse, but the big thing associated with Philippine type languages is this unique way of forming sentences in, for example, Tagalog or Ilocano. It'd take a video to get us used to it, which luckily someone else already made for us. Their video indulges in a narrative way of thinking through what's going on by treating every sentence as a little story. And you can tell from the comments it connects to how intuitive this feels for insiders in the audience. Insider implies cultural and linguistic stickiness, but there's some evidence out there you're not stuck inside your own language. Take an old paper I read for that video about aizutsu. The frequency of and patterns of backchanneling considered appropriate in Japanese was unusual for Midwest US English speakers, until they tried applying it to their own back and forths, and it actually increased their own conversational satisfaction. Sometimes the littlest things from the outside are a big deal from within. As a linguist and native speaker exchanged thoughts on the language of Guam, there casually came up this point of tension over the spelling of the name. Is the final letter O or U? And is the second letter capitalized or not? It's not just spoken in Guam. People of the Northern Mariana Islands, CNMI, speak other dialects, and how you spell this name takes sides on the competing spelling systems. And so we're flipped from a finer point into some large insider beliefs about a language as a whole. In tonal languages, it's routine for speakers to harness tones to speak the language in ways like whistling or with talking drums. But it's not a replacement for song or music. Tones don't seem to determine the notes singers sing, but tones do intrude on singing, some types of songs more than others. In Ghana, one musician's insight is that tonality feels core to the way the town crier spreads messages in Akan, And it also feels connected to why local instruments can be allowed to sharp or flat depending on environments, which then fail to record in Western digital notation. Do you know this language proficiency scale? People I've met and others I watch online use it to judge how good they are at the languages they're learning. Well, one insider academic found it lacking for judging Hawaiian language proficiency, so she developed the Ana Olelo. It forefronts what to Hawaiians feels as basic as grammatical features. How many chants do you know? Can you build a ritual greeting? How good is your kauna, your punny use of double meanings? And how much is memorized versus improvised? Whole languages can look very different from within and out, like who speaks Arabic? Academic views stress Arabic diglossia. People are raised fluent in their own unique local variety. Eventually, they become literate in what is essentially another language as they learn the widespread canopy that is Standard Arabic. Versus this, speakers overwhelmingly believe that literary Arabic is their native language. Literacy means knowing the standard, not being able to write in your dialect. One insider linguist insists on mending this apparent contradiction by pulling us toward the cultural perspective within which varieties can flourish, quote, side by side. You're both a mother tongue speaker of your variety and a native user of the standard. Let's wind down today with a way to visualize people's language attitudes, the draw me a map approach. Ask Korean speakers to label where sounds standard, and they clearly hot zone Seoul. Non-standard? They pull south and east. Now bring that map exercise to Trinidad, but ask 100 people to write freely on the map. Their labels do indicate language and place, but routinely get at ethnic and class differences, degree of proper Englishness, especially in the Northwest, and the social history and flow of power. Their maps may imply a standard-non-standard divide, not quite the participants' terms, or perhaps show awareness of a more subtle gradient behind a three-area landscape. Flow of power. That's a thread throughout the perspectives today. Like, it is fascinating that in Quechuan languages, you face the past and your future is behind you. You can't see it yet. But Quechua community attitudes stress that our interest in interesting linguistic facts like this is insufficient unless it's tied to the ways speakers are devalued in society. Voices say we need social and political context if insider beliefs about language are to matter. Now, on the way to that forest, I wouldn't want to miss the many trees. Given my audience out there, I'm sure I've only come up with a fraction of what it's like to experience language from the inside. What examples come to mind? What sticks out about your own language versus how linguists analyze it? More from me is on the way, so do stick around and subscribe. Thanks to everyone who joined in last time for my call for aid and understanding, and of course to patrons for your tireless support and patience as I create. This was a beautiful chance to walk through people's own perspectives on a world full of languages and cultures.